Hi guys, nice to see you again. Welcome back to a new video. I hope everyone's having a good morning already or good day. Sorry that I was absent last week. I have been swamped, so it's sometimes getting a little bit difficult to get my Friday videos in, but I promise that I'm going to try to stay consistent with them, although I can't promise that it will be every week on Friday, due to just excessive amount of sessions and yeah, life just gets in the way sometimes. But it's nice to see you guys today, and I have a really nice video prepared for you. I asked in my Instagram a couple of weeks ago if you guys had any questions for videos, and this was a topic that came up quite a lot. Um, so I thought perfect time to address it and to make a video about the topic. And the topic is how to stop being hyper-aware or hyper-vigilant when you are struggling with DPDR, um, or existential fears or anxiety in general. And I think the question is, what is the difference between being hyper-aware and being in DPDR? The two come hand in hand a lot of the time. But I do think it helps sometimes to really kind of understand where a symptom comes from or understand why your brain creates a symptom, and then also understand how to therefore, yeah, get rid of it or I guess overcome the symptom. This is a reminder as well that your recovery is always going to be a collaboration with your brain, never a fight against it. And this video is one of those videos that really shows why it's so important to look at it that way, that if you fight your own brain, it's just going to fight back because it wants to keep you safe. But if you do this as a collaboration with your brain, from really understanding your brain, then in that case, you can actually, yeah, see it as a teamwork, and teamwork makes the dream work. So, first of all, why are you hyper aware or hyper vigilant? I think in order to understand how to get rid of something or how to overcome something, we have to understand where it comes from. So, the opposite of being hyper aware is just being normal aware, just being present in life, basically. When you are hyper aware, it's like you are not just present, but you are in a hyper analytical state, observing everything from a place of questioning, from a place of being critical. So when you're not hyper aware, you're not questioning anything. You're just accepting things as they are and just living in life. But when you feel hyper aware or hyper vigilant, which means that you see a lot more things come in, the way you see things come in, feel more distant, feel more from like an observer kind of standpoint. And everything little that changes, you can actually latch onto and notice very quickly. So you can be hyper vigilant or hyper aware of your environment, for example, like you can be hyper aware of things around you and reality and see things outside of you from a different perspective. But you can also be hyper vigilant within and internally. And that's what I see with a lot of clients with DPDR, is that they are so scared of their own emotions or so scared of their own symptoms that they become super hyper vigilant to how they feel. So any little change in sensation, any little like feeling in your chest, heart rate going up, stomach not feeling well, tenseness in your shoulders, symptom in terms of DPDR, you just notice extremely quickly. And I'll explain why that is in a second. Um, but basically, that's what hypervigilance or hyper-awareness means, is that you're not just surrendered to things as they are, therefore not really noticing them. No, you notice everything a lot stronger because a part of your brain is so hyper focused on everything. Now, why is this? Why are you hyper aware? Well, if you don't feel safe, and feeling safe means feeling that things are okay the way they are. If you don't feel that on a deeper level, if your brain doesn't feel that, then it will want to protect you. And how it wants to protect you is by making sure it notices every little thing that can go wrong. And so, an example I sometimes give to explain hypervigilance is if you've ever been in a car accident and say that you got hit by a truck. Well, that's a pretty extreme example, but I'm just going to go with it. every time you're in the car, you're going to be extremely hyper aware of trucks around you or just of the traffic in general. Whereas, for example, now I've never been into a severe car accident before. So when I'm driving, I don't really pay attention to a lot of cars around me. I mean, I do because I want to not get into a car accident, but I'm not going to be, I'm aware of the traffic, but I'm not hyper aware of the traffic. I'm not in a super, super aware state where I notice every little car around me or every truck or, but if I've been in a car accident, my brain has seen the link of the danger of the car with with the situation. And so it is hyper vigilant, trying to make sure that I'm protected in that case. So that's the first thing to understand is hypervigilance comes from a place of hyper protection. Let's call it like that. Your brain really wanting to keep you safe. And so another example actually of hyper awareness and a question that I get a lot from people that is very well, I think, linked to this topic is the topic of caffeine. A lot of people ask me, should I stop drinking coffee? Because when I drink coffee, I get more anxious, or people tell you that coffee makes you anxious. Personally, I believe that coffee makes you anxious because you are hyper vigilant to what you feel. And so when you drink coffee and you notice a little shift in your system, like your heart rate goes a little up, which is good, which is what coffee does. It wakes you up. It puts you into a more alert state. It's not that it triggers anxiety, it's that because you're so hyper vigilant, every little shift you just notice so intensely, and your brain's like, what's happening here? There's a shift in your body. Therefore, like we have to latch on, we have to create anxiety around it. Um, because when you're in a state of DPDR, you're basically scared of yourself and your own system and your own emotions. And so that's where that comes from, right? When you're afraid of, like, when you just feel caffeine a lot stronger, when you're scared of drinking coffee, when you're scared of drinking alcohol again, that's because the hypervigilance just latches onto it and makes it a lot stronger and more noticeable too. So how do we stop being hyper aware? This is the where we really get into what we want to do instead. So the whole thing around stopping with hyper awareness is, like I said, understanding where it comes from. And so the first step is learning to accept things the way they are. Surprise, surprise, here I am again with acceptance. But basically, because hyper awareness comes from a place of questioning and a place of being critical and a place of not trusting things, the opposite of that is just trusting things and just surrendering back into life and saying, you know what, I'm going to decide to be okay with things the way they are. So that means if you're hyper vigilant of your external environment, saying life is as it is, it's not always perfect, it's not always safe. There's a lot of parts of it that I wish I could change, but I can't. And so instead of my brain needing to fix the things that it can't change and therefore being hyper vigilant, I'm going to be okay with the imperfections of life. I'm going to be okay with the dark. I'm going to be okay with sunlight. I'm going to be okay with things the way they are and things the way they exist as a way of showing your brain that you can actually allow life to be as it is. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to change it. Nothing about it has to be different. And also doing the same within yourself. If you can say every emotion is welcome, even the uncomfortable ones, like I really am okay with feeling uncomfortable. I'm okay with feeling a wave of anxiety sometimes. I'm okay with my heart rate going up and learning to really face those feelings and learning to really say, you know what, it is already as it is, so I might as well say yes to it. That's one that really helped me is understanding that the moment is already as it is. So what's the point of saying no to it, right? So saying yes to life the way it is, saying yes to your emotions the way they are, and really learning how to neutralize your responses to things that you are hyper vigilant against. Um, so that's one step of it. Another step of it is, and Julia explained this very beautifully in one of the recovery stories, is learning to just trust. Trusting is not controlling. So it's not finding control, not finding answers, which is what the hypervigilant does, but learning to just trust and say, you know what, trust that life's okay the way it is. I trust that my emotions are doing what they have to do. And that's scary because trusting means letting go, and trusting means facing the unknown and facing uncertainty. But the opposite of hypervigilance is letting life be as it is, letting things be as they are. And trust is a big part of it. So that was a word that I really focused on a lot in my own journey, is just trusting that things are as they should be, even though they seem not great sometimes. Maybe it's what we need in a way, and we just don't know why. Um, so the second thing I would recommend, very, very important one, is to be compassionate with the brain that is trying to protect you. Like I said, the more you fight yourself, the more you fight your brain, the more it's going to fight back because it wants to protect you. And so instead of being angry with this hypervigilance or frustrated against it, when you notice that you're hyper aware, first thing you do is you just say, all right, thank you, brain, for trying to protect me. Thank you for scanning everything about my environment. Thank you for scanning everything within myself. I really appreciate it. It's not necessary, but thank you anyways. Like, I really do appreciate it. Very often, the things that we feel frustrated with are things that we are not accepting of, things that we are seeing from a negative perspective. When we fight something, when we're frustrated against something, it's because we see it in a negative light. But when we can make ourselves see it from a positive light, in this case, see the intention behind our brain creating this response rather than the actual feeling of it, then we can create a better relationship with that hypervigilance. And again, we can then normalize it, accept it more, and become present with whatever it is that we're doing again. And so kind of let it fade to the background. The third thing is to give it time. Do not rush this. This is, I think, the hypervigilance for me was the thing that lasted the longest, just because once you're hyper aware of something, it's very hard to suddenly just forget about it. You know, your brain is really trying to analyze things and really trying to protect you, and to really re-normalize things just takes time. It's like when you move to a different place and you're so hyper aware of the people and the culture, it's because you're not familiar with it yet. And you have to just live there long enough in order for things to just feel normal. And that's what it is with hypervigilance too, is you have to give it long enough time of accepting and neutralizing and being compassionate with the brain long enough so that it starts to feel normal again. And that just takes time. And the less time you give it and the more you rush it, the more you're fighting again, the more you're being hyper aware by definition. So really letting yourself take time for this and giving your brain time to normalize is very important. Then I have two more things for you. The fourth thing that I wrote down is actually a tip I got from a client of mine, is to focus on the task instead of on the environment or on yourself. So basically, there's three things you can focus on. You can focus on your environment, you can focus on yourself, or you can focus on the task in front of you. And being hyper aware is always about being hyper aware of yourself, about your environment. But when you focus on your task, and so the task can sometimes just be walking, or the task can be working, or the task can be eating, or the task can be talking to someone, then by definition, you put yourself in connection to that thing you're doing and therefore being more present. Being present is a very important part of it, because being hyper aware is not being present, it's being zoomed out of being present. It's being analyzing about the present. But just being present with the task at hand, no matter what the task is, kind of puts you back in connection to the present moment, which helps to not analyze. So don't focus on self, don't focus on environment, but focus on the task. And the last little tip is to include more grounding into your day. Grounding is whatever practice you can do to get you out of your head into your body. Think about going on a walk and really just feeling the wind and really just feeling the earth under your feet. You can even do a barefoot walk and really feel the grass underneath you, to do a body scan, to do breathing exercises, to really, really be present when you're in a conversation and want to listen to the other person instead of feel understood yourself, to really like try to focus on what you can give to other people. Also very grounding. Just anything that puts you into your body, puts you into yourself, and just makes you feel more grounded. And I know with DPDR, sometimes that's hard because you don't feel grounded at all. Um, but even if you can go from feeling like only 1% grounded to feeling 10% grounded, that's already a win. So think of it that way. So including more grounding exercises into your day as well. That was it for today. I feel like I enjoyed making this video and talking to you guys today. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, that you have a beautiful rest of your day. And yeah, I will see you guys next week, hopefully, for another video. Bye.